Heat shimmered above the runway like invisible flames long before the real fire ever started. The temperature had broken records 3 days in a row, and every surface at Grant International Airport radiated stored sunlight back into the air. Fire Chief Andre Lawson stood beside Engine 4 at the edge of runway 27, scanning the horizon through dark sunglasses. His uniform shirt clung slightly to his back, but his posture stayed straight, controlled, alert. He had commanded airport fire response for 12 years, 26 years total in emergency services. He knew heat changed everything. Tires burst easier, hydraulics strained harder, metal expanded, small problems multiplied fast under pressure. Behind him, a newly appointed airport executive, Daniel Mercer, stepped out of a black SUV, adjusting his tie as if the runway were an office hallway instead of a live operations zone. "Chief Lawson," Mercer called out, forcing a smile. "We need to talk." Andre removed his sunglasses slowly. "We are in peak arrival window. Make it quick." Mercer glanced at the line of aircraft descending in the distance. "A board member from Skyline Charter filed a complaint this morning. Said you delayed their departure for a runway debris inspection that turned out unnecessary." Andre's jaw tightened slightly. "It was not unnecessary. I found melted rubber fragments near the touchdown zone. In this heat, that becomes ignition fuel." Mercer folded his arms. "The delay cost them money. They were not pleased." "Safety costs time," Andre replied evenly. "Time prevents funerals." Mercer's expression hardened. "The board wants smoother operations, less disruption." Andre looked directly at him. "My job is not to keep executives comfortable. It is to keep passengers alive." The tension thickened in the heat. Mercer stepped closer, lowering his voice. "For the remainder of today, I am reassigning you to administrative review inside the terminal. Deputy Chief Warren will oversee runway response." Andre blinked once. "Warren is not certified for a high-heat multi-engine ignition protocol." "He is certified enough," Mercer snapped. "We cannot afford another complaint." Andre stared at the executive for a long moment. "This is a mistake." "That will be all, Chief." The words landed heavier than the heat. Andre removed his helmet and handed it to a firefighter beside him. "Monitor tire temperatures closely," he instructed quietly. "If any landing looks unstable, call it immediately." He walked toward the terminal without looking back. Inside the glass-walled operations office, air conditioning replaced the burning wind outside. Andre stood by the window, watching aircraft descend in shimmering waves. Deputy Chief Warren's voice crackled over the radio with forced confidence. "Engine units maintain standby positions." Andre closed his eyes briefly. He knew Warren was capable in routine conditions, but this was not routine. On approach, Skyline Flight 482 began its descent, a fully loaded commercial jet carrying 170 passengers. The pilot's voice came through tower frequency, reporting slight vibration on landing gear. In the terminal office, Andre's head tilted sharply. Warren responded from the runway. "Copy vibration. Continue approach." Andre stepped closer to the window. The jet touched down harder than usual. A loud, explosive pop echoed across the runway. Smoke burst from the rear landing gear as shredded tire fragments sprayed behind the aircraft in a violent arc. Sparks followed. Inside the terminal, alarms began sounding. On the runway, the aircraft continued rolling, unaware at first of the flames beginning to lick along the scattered rubber debris. "Towered to fire command, we have visible smoke." Warren's voice faltered slightly. "Engines proceed to inspection position." The wind shifted suddenly. Flames caught dry residue and raced along the touchdown strip toward the wing. Passengers inside the aircraft began screaming as smoke seeped into the cabin vents. In the terminal office, Andre was already moving. He grabbed a handheld radio from the desk. "This is Chief Lawson." Mercer stepped in front of him. "You have been reassigned." Andre did not slow down. "There is active ignition on runway 27. Warren can handle it." Through the glass, both men saw the first burst of flame rise under the wing. Warren's voice cracked over the radio. "We have fire spreading near Engine 2. Andre locked eyes with Mercer. "Every second matters." Mercer hesitated. Another explosion sounded as overheated brake components ignited fluid residue. Passengers deployed emergency slides prematurely on one side of the aircraft. Smoke thickened rapidly. "Go," Mercer finally muttered, stepping aside. Andre sprinted out of the terminal radio, already pressed to his mouth. "All units, foam suppression protocol Delta. Approach from north side." Wind at 10 knots east shift. Protect fuselage first. Cut off flame path to wing route. His voice cut through chaos with surgical precision. Fire engines roared onto the runway, spraying white arcs of foam that blanketed the spreading flames. Andre reached engine 4, pulling on his helmet in one fluid motion. Warren stood frozen momentarily near the command truck. Andre took the command tablet without ceremony. Evacuation status, he demanded. Rear slides deployed. Passengers exiting but smoke heavy in aft cabin. Andre adjusted positions instantly. Redirect engine to detail section. Create foam corridor for evac path. Keep intake clear. Firefighters moved with renewed confidence under his direction. Flames that had threatened to engulf the wing began shrinking beneath thick foam layers. One firefighter shouted that 2 passengers were still visible near the rear door, struggling through smoke. Andre ran forward without hesitation, grabbing a breathing mask from a responder. He moved through the foam-lined path and into the smoky rear cabin entrance, alongside 2 firefighters. Inside, visibility dropped 2 inches. "Stay low," he commanded. They located an elderly couple disoriented near the aisle. Andre guided them out one by one toward the foam-covered runway where paramedics waited. Outside, the main fire was nearly suppressed. The crowd watching from terminal windows stood silent. Mercer stared in disbelief as the same man he had sidelined minutes earlier coordinated one of the most critical emergency responses the airport had faced in years. Within 15 minutes, the fire was fully contained. All passengers accounted for. No fatalities. Minimal injuries. As the final embers hissed under foam, Andre removed his helmet slowly. Warren approached quietly. "I should have called you sooner." Andre's voice was calm but firm. "In heat like this, hesitation spreads fire faster than wind." News helicopters circled overhead, already broadcasting live footage of the burning runway and emergency response. Reporters flooded the terminal asking why the fire chief had been removed minutes before the incident. Mercer stood before cameras, visibly shaken. "We are reviewing operational decisions," he said carefully. Footage soon surfaced of Mercer reassigning Andre earlier that afternoon. Commentators questioned the timing. Former firefighters spoke on news panels about the dangers of political interference in emergency command. Inside the fire station that evening, the crew gathered around Andre. One younger firefighter spoke first. "Chief, we heard about the reassignment. Why did you come back without arguing?" Andre wiped soot from his gloves slowly. "Because the runway does not care about pride," he said. "Fire does not care about titles. It only responds to action." The room fell silent. The following week, the airport board held an emergency meeting. An independent review concluded that removing the certified high-heat commander during peak operations created unnecessary risk. Mercer submitted his resignation within days. The official report emphasized the importance of respecting specialized certification and avoiding external pressure during safety decisions. Andre returned to his post permanently. The runway was repaired, the scorched marks faded over time, but the lesson remained burned into memory. One afternoon, a little girl whose family had been on Flight 480 visited the fire station with her parents. She handed Andre a small drawing of a fire truck spraying foam over a plane with the words "Thank you, Chief" written in bright crayon. Andre knelt to her height, accepting it gently. "You were very brave," she said. He smiled softly. "So were you." As she left, one of the firefighters asked if the reassignment incident still bothered him. Andre looked out toward runway 27, where a new aircraft now landed safely in the afternoon sun. "Bias can remove a title for a moment," he said, "but it cannot remove preparation." He adjusted his helmet as another aircraft began its descent. Heat shimmered again above the runway. This time, command stood exactly where it belonged. And when the next emergency came, there would be no hesitation, only response. The heat had been rising off the runway since sunrise. By noon, the air above the tarmac shimmered like a living thing, bending light, warping distance, turning the airport into a mirage of steel and fire. Chief Andre Lawson stood at the edge of runway 27, arms folded behind his back, eyes scanning every inch of concrete like he always did. 23 years in airport fire rescue had trained him to see what others missed. A loose bolt, a flicker of smoke, a shimmer that did not belong. Behind him, engine 3 idled. Foam tanks full, crew suited, ready. Inside the terminal, though, something else was simmering. The new executive director, Thomas Kessler, had arrived 3 weeks earlier with polished shoes and a private aviation background. He liked order, He liked image, and he did not like delays. This morning, Andre had shut down a private charter takeoff after spotting a hairline crack near the wheel well during a random inspection. The delay lasted 12 minutes. The passenger on board was a billionaire investor who funded part of the airport's expansion project. By lunchtime, Andre was called upstairs. The executive office overlooked the entire airfield. Floor-to-ceiling glass, cold air conditioning, silence. Kessler did not offer him a seat. "You embarrassed us out there," Kessler said calmly. "I prevented a possible landing gear collapse," Andre replied just as calmly. "You cost us a client. I saved you a lawsuit." There it was, the shift in tone. Kessler leaned back. "For the remainder of today's operations, you will handle administrative oversight from inside. Assistant Chief Reynolds will command runway response." Andre felt it like a punch that never landed but still knocked the wind out of him. "With respect," Andre said evenly, "I am the only Level 5 certified runway fire response commander on this shift." "That will not be necessary." "Necessary?" The word echoed in his head as he removed his command helmet and set it on the glass table. He walked out without another word. Outside, the heat swallowed him whole. Engine 3 rolled past him towards staging. Reynolds avoided eye contact. At 2:17 p.m., Flight 482 began its descent. A fully loaded commercial jet carrying 173 passengers. The heat index on the runway had reached 109 degrees. Tire pressure was already a concern. Andre was inside the terminal command office staring at monitors he was never meant to sit behind. On the live runway feed, he saw it before anyone else reacted. The landing looked hard, too hard. The rear right tire exploded on impact. A violent pop cracked through speakers. Rubber shred sparks sprayed behind the aircraft like a comet tail. Andre stood instantly. On screen, sparks ignited dry debris along the runway edge. Then smoke, thin at first, then thicker. "Engine to respond," Reynolds' voice crackled over the radio, but there was hesitation in it, confusion. The aircraft slowed unevenly, dragging slightly to one side. Andre grabbed the radio on the desk. "Command to all units, foam suppression immediately. Approach from port side. Wind direction southwest at 12 knots. Do not wait for confirmation." There was a pause. He was not technically in command. Renault's voice came back uncertain. "We are assessing." On the monitor, a flicker of orange appeared beneath the right wing. Passengers' emergency slides deployed. Smoke began pouring from the engine housing. Andre did not wait. He stormed out of the terminal, ignoring the startled stares of staff as he ran across the service corridor toward the response vehicles. Outside, chaos had begun to bloom. Passengers were sliding onto scorching concrete, some stumbling, some frozen. The wind shifted. Flames crawled higher. Engine 2 had positioned too far back. Foam trajectory was off. Andre reached the scene just as Reynolds stood barking, overlapping orders. "Angle the nozzle 15 degrees lower," Andre shouted without hesitation. "Cut airflow under the wing." Reynolds turned. For a split second, pride battled panic on his face. Then another explosion erupted from the wheel assembly. That decided it. Andre grabbed a spare helmet from the truck and climbed onto the side rail. "Listen to me," he roared to the crew. "We contain this now, or it breaches the fuel line." Authority snapped back into place like it had never left. Foam blasted forward in a thick white arc, blanketing the burning rubber in creeping flames. Andre directed 2 firefighters to create a secondary suppression line toward the engine housing. Inside, the aircraft flight attendants were shouting. One rear exit had jammed due to tilts. Smoke seeped into the cabin. Andre sprinted toward the fuselage, guiding evacuees away from heat pockets. A child tripped near the wing. Without hesitation, Andre ran through shallow flames, scooped the boy up, and carried him beyond the foam line. Behind him, suppression finally began to smother the blaze. For 9 relentless minutes, the scene balanced between disaster and control. Then the flames died. Smoke thinned. Sirens slowed. 173 passengers. All evacuated. Minor injuries only. Andre stood in the aftermath, soot streaking his uniform, chest rising slowly. Across the tarmac, Executive Kessler approached, face pale. For a moment, neither spoke. "You should never have been removed," Kessler finally said, voice tight. Andre did not answer, because he knew something Kessler did not. Multiple bystanders had recorded everything, including the moment Andre had been sidelined, and the moment he had taken command anyway. By evening, footage spread online. Clips of the explosion, the spreading fire, the hesitation in early response, and then Andre's voice cutting through chaos with precision and calm. Comment sections ignited, questions surfaced. Why was the certified commander not leading from the start? Why was he reassigned minutes before a critical landing? The airport issued a statement praising teamwork, but reporters dug deeper. An anonymous firefighter leaked internal shift logs showing Andre was the only Level 5 runway commander present. Public pressure mounted. A week later, an independent review concluded that delaying Andre's authority cost valuable suppression time. Not enough to cause fatalities, but enough to matter. Executive Kessler resigned quietly. At a packed press conference, Andre stood at a podium he never asked for. "I do not need applause," he said steadily. "I need preparedness to outweigh perception." Every time, the room fell silent. Behind him stood the entire fire crew, Reynolds included. In the months that followed, policy changed. Command certifications could no longer be overridden without safety justification documented in writing. Heat response protocols were updated. Runway debris sweeps doubled during extreme weather, and Andre Lawson returned to his post. Not because of redemption, because he had never failed to begin with, but the story did not end there. 6 months later, a different kind of test arrived. A cargo jet reported hydraulic failure during approach, heavy crosswinds, limited braking capability. This time, no one questioned command. Andre coordinated prepositioned foam units before the aircraft even touched down. He calculated stopping distance with precision that only years of repetition could teach. The jet skidded, sparks flew again, but this time suppression rolled instantly, contained in under 3 minutes. 0 injuries. Afterward, a young firefighter approached him quietly. "Chief," she said, "how did you stay calm that day? They tried to bench you." Andre looked out at the runway heat waves dancing again in the afternoon light. "Because the runway does not care about ego," he replied. "It only responds to readiness." The lesson spread through the department. Leadership was not volume, it was steadiness. And sometimes steadiness looked like standing your ground, even when someone tried to move you aside. Years later, that first incident became part of training curriculum for new airport executives nationwide. Not as scandal, as case study, a reminder that perception can never outrank qualification, and that sometimes the person you sideline is the one holding the line between order and catastrophe. On summer afternoons, when the air shimmers just right, passengers waiting at gates still glance out at runway 27 and remember the video they once saw. A plane trailing sparks, smoke rising, and one steady figure stepping forward when hesitation could have cost everything. Andre Lawson never mentioned bias publicly again. He did not need to. The runway remembered. The crew remembered. And every time foam cannons were tested under the blazing sun, there was no debate about who commanded the line, because leadership once proven under fire does not ask permission twice. It simply acts. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the shimmer and heat, another aircraft descends safely toward concrete, protected not just by equipment and protocol, but by experience that refused to step aside when it mattered most.